They say marriage is about love. But what happens when you say I do and feel absolutely nothing? My name is Nora, and for 7 years, I lived a lie so big that even my own mother believed it. It started when I was 23. My family was struggling. My father had lost his job, and my younger brother needed surgery we couldn't afford. Every night, I heard my parents whispering in the kitchen about bills they couldn't pay. Then came David. He was 38, wealthy, well-respected in our community, and he wanted a wife. Not because he loved me. He barely knew me. He wanted a partner for business dinners, someone to manage his home, someone pretty and quiet who wouldn't ask too many questions. And I wanted money. I know how ugly that sounds, but when you watch your mother cry over an eviction notice, you stop dreaming about fairy tales. You start thinking about survival. So when David's family approached mine with a proposal, I didn't say no. He was kind enough, not warm, not cruel, just distant, like a hotel receptionist, polite but empty. We had a beautiful wedding, white flowers, a long silk dress, 300 guests clapping as we kissed. But what I didn't know that day was that I had just signed up for 7 years of silence. The first year, I told myself it would get better. It didn't. David and I slept in separate bedrooms. He never asked about my day, never touched my hand, never looked at me the way a husband should. We dined together twice a week, always at restaurants, always with other people around. Alone, we had nothing to say. I remember one night I tried to hold his hand at dinner. He pulled away gently and said, "Not now, Nora. Not now, not ever." I became a ghost in my own home, a painting on the wall, present but invisible. I kept my part of the deal. I hosted his dinners. I smiled at his colleagues. I wore the dresses he liked. In return, my brother's surgery was paid for, my parents kept their home, and every month money appeared in my account. But my heart was starving until everything changed. 3 years into the marriage, I stopped hoping. That was the saddest part, not the loneliness, not the silence, but the moment I accepted that I would never be loved. I started filling my days with anything to stay busy, cooking, gardening, walking alone in the park. And then I met Elena. She was my neighbor, a woman in her 50s with wild gray hair and the loudest laugh I'd ever heard. She wasn't rich, she wasn't powerful, but every time I saw her, she was smiling. One afternoon, she invited me for tea. "Why are you so sad?" she asked. Straight, no filter. I almost lied, but something about her kindness cracked me open. I told her everything, the arranged marriage, the emptiness, the 7 years of sleeping next to a stranger. She listened. Then she said something I never forgot. "You traded your life for money. That was a deal, not a marriage, and a deal can be broken." I thought about that for months. Meanwhile, David grew colder. He started coming home later, then not at all. I found receipts from hotels, perfume that wasn't mine on his collar. I confronted him one night. "Are you seeing someone else?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "Nora, we made an agreement. Don't pretend you married me for love." That word, agreement, not marriage, not partnership, agreement. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. Something shifted. I realized I had given 7 years of my life to a man who saw me as a transaction. I had aged, I had faded, I had forgotten who I was before I became Mrs. David. And for what? Money, security. My brother was healthy now. My parents were stable. I no longer had any reason to stay, but leaving wasn't simple. David controlled everything. The house was in his name. The money was in his accounts. I had nothing but the clothes in my closet. So I started planning quietly, carefully. I opened a small secret bank account. I started saving little by little from the household allowance he gave me. I reconnected with an old college friend who offered me a place to stay. For an entire year, I prepared my escape. And then I found something that changed everything. David kept a safe in his study. One night, while he was away on a business trip, I hired a locksmith, told him I lost my keys. Inside the safe, I didn't find money or jewels. I found a letter A letter from a woman named Claire. She had a son, David's son, a 7-year-old boy David had been supporting in secret. He had a whole other family. While I sat alone in that big empty house for 7 years, he had been living a second life. And that's when I stopped feeling sad. I started feeling free because now I had the truth. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I simply took photos of that letter and put everything back exactly as I found it. The next morning, I called a lawyer, a good one, a woman named Sophia who specialized in high net worth divorces. When I told her my story, she smiled. "You don't need his money, Nora. You need his freedom, and he just gave it to you." 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. David was shocked, not sad, not hurt, shocked. Because in his mind, I was a quiet, obedient wife who would never leave. "Nora, think about what you're doing," he said. "You'll have nothing." "I already have nothing," I said. "At least now I'll have peace." The divorce was ugly. His lawyers tried to bury me, but the letter, his secret family, changed everything. He couldn't fight without exposing himself, and he cared too much about his reputation. So he let me go. I walked out of that courthouse with no house, no car, and barely any money. But I also walked out with something I hadn't felt in 7 years, myself. I moved into a small apartment, just 2 rooms. Elena helped me paint the walls yellow, my favorite color. I got a job at a bookstore, not fancy, not rich, but mine. Today, 3 years later, I still don't have much money, but I have friends who call me just to say hello. I have weekends where I do nothing but read and laugh. I have a life that belongs to no one but me. David remarried within a year, someone younger. I don't know if he loves her. I don't care. Because here's what I learned, and I want you to remember this. Love is not something you beg for. Love is not something you trade your soul for. 7 years in a marriage with 0 love taught me that being alone is better than being invisible. I used to think I wasn't worthy of love because my own husband couldn't give it. But I was wrong. The person who needed to love me most was me. So if you're watching this and you're trapped in something that feels empty, a marriage, a friendship, a job, a life, please hear me. You are not a transaction. You are not a ghost. And it is never too late to choose yourself. I walked away with nothing, and I have never been richer. Thank you for listening.